I'm Megan Howe and my candidate number is 2012124 and this is my Unit 5C choreography presentation. So, just a little bit about me firstly. So I started my dance training here on the community programme and then I went on to do a Centre for Advanced Training course. So it's like a pre-vocational course before auditioning to go on to Consent Class. I also did a BTEC Level 3 here at Swing and Dance as well. I then went on to Laggan, Trinity Laggan, and did my degree in BA Honours in Contemporary Dance. I'm now a teacher, well, I was a teacher here for the community dance programme, and now I teach at Swindon Academy Secondary School. I did a little project with Swerve Dance Company, that was site-specific work, yeah, so that's a bit of performance. So my choreographic experience, so what I've used before in the past is personal themes to myself. So I normally work with something that I have kind of experienced or something I feel quite passionately about, a real event in my life that kind of I want to share with people. And I think it's really important that you are able to do that, because otherwise you just get things for me kind of build up and I want to try and get them out somehow. So that's what I tend to use for my choreography. And I worked with a family friend who he has a lot he wants to share and wanted to use movement to show that, because he's interested in dance but he's not a dancer. So I was supporting him in showing his ideas through movement, and we went around different churches and performed. We've done some stuff outside. We did it in a conference event, which was interesting because no one there was a dancer, except they asked me if I knew about Trinity Laggan, which was interesting because they didn't know I even went there. So that was, yeah, really great. So for this unit, I've decided to go for a completely different idea, to kind of test myself and put myself outside of my comfort zone. So I've gone for more of a physical theatre approach, narrative approach, as it's something I've not used before, like I just said. Something I don't feel or experience really, but I want to show. So yeah, it's about football hooliganism. So it's definitely something different, as I'm not a football hooligan. So just a background about physical theatre. So it's a form of theatre putting emphasis on movement rather than dialogue. It's the human body at the centre of storytelling, which kind of relates to what I like to work with anyway. So like I say, movement is something that I really enjoy using to show how I feel or express an idea that I want to get a point across to the audience. And it's in an abstract style. So a lot of my work I mostly like to use an abstract style, not literal, because I kind of want to leave it open for the audience to interpret as well. I don't think it's all about giving it all away, but obviously by using something a bit more literal, like the theme of football hooliganism, it will be given away a bit more. So that's challenging me as well. So I've chose, my first practitioner is Lloyd Newson and his company DV8. So he uses physical theatre. He has something to say, so it says, I only create when I have something to say. And I think that's really important, for me anyway, is making sure that you know the work you're creating is showing and portraying the idea or the theme that you have begun, like started with at the first point. So it's not just, I'm creating movement for movement's sake. For me, I want to show you guys what it's about. Verbatim dance theatre is another thing, dancing other people's words. So in my process, it's looking at the behaviour of these hooligans, looking at the way they kind of perform at the events that they attend, and I'm using my dancers collaboratively with me by asking their interpretation. So I'm not giving away everything, I'm not giving them everything that I feel that they should do. So yeah, looking at their behaviour as well as obviously the football hooligans, translating that together. And I want to keep it true to the research. So because I'm doing something out of my comfort zone, when I normally use like personal events, it's true to the events that I've experienced. It's not fake news, if that makes sense. So I want to make sure that the information I'm sharing is true to what football hooliganism is, and I'm not just making something up. So by using, I've kind of shown different clips from movies. I've also attended a lot of football games myself, because my partner works within the football industry, so I've attended a lot of those. And I've kind of used observations and just sit, rather than watching football games, so I'm not that interested in football, watching the behaviour of the surrounding people. So the characters that kind of attend these games and what they show. And that comes to realism as well, so being really realistic in my approach and not having the fake news. Obviously, it's going to be quite theatrical, so I'm going to unlock the drama within the movement, just like Laurie Newsom says. And he describes it as existing as a crossroad when dance, sound and drama meet. So having those three elements as a way to support each other to show that idea. He says, I'm interested only in provoking and pushing myself, questioning my own and the performer's motivations, reasons, thoughts and assumptions. So in my process, straight away, I've given them tasks, but I've left it quite open to their own interpretations. And I've noticed that's worked quite well with the age group, because they're year 13 college years, so they're quite confident in their responses, and they'll tell me when they think something should be different, or when we should move on, or when we should dive deeper into the idea. So that's really interesting as well. So it's not just all coming from me, we work together. So the dramatic feel, I think, for this is something that's going to have to stick out a little bit more for me. I don't like dramatising things. I think they should get a level that's kind of, realistic. But to show this idea, it's quite a dramatic theme. The kind of characteristics of hooligans, I don't know if you've seen them before, everything is kind of outwards to the opposing team. So it's important that they know that that's what they're trying to show to the audience. So the audience become part of it as well. They become the opposing team, I guess. They're watching, so yeah. His influences. So Pina Bausch is one of his influences, and the theatricality, so exaggerating the movement, something we've worked with as well. So I'll come to that later on, but exaggerating dramatic movement. Improvisation and the collaborations of dancers and designers. Now, I'm not working with a designer, but I'm definitely working with dancers. So, like I said earlier, making sure that it's I get a response from them and it's not all from me. Draws from contact improvisation where the floor is your partner. So, coming off here is impromptu movement. So I did a task with my dancers. I've already started working with them. I got to a point where I was like, I don't want to give too much away now, because they're starting to get the idea a little bit more. So I got a bit stuck, and we were in an end position, and I just said, where do you want to go next? Where is your body telling you want to go next? And so I guess impromptu movement from that. So we went, one person moved where they felt like they wanted to go next, which made another person want to go somewhere else. And we went back and we set it eventually. But after doing that and making sure it looked right. So it came from within rather than, right, you move there. It came from where they wanted to go. So that's how I've used, I guess, related to one of his influences. Just going off that, sorry, the previous slide, I haven't used much improvisation at the minute. Although I feel like it's really important to begin a new idea. So I think with characterization and what I'm trying to show, the theme I'm trying to show, I need to come back to this and use this to start and refresh the idea. So as they're trying to represent being the hooligans, some of them aren't quite getting that through the dynamics they're using in their work. So I think I could go back to improvisation and use that to draw that out and to draw the characters out. And so I think that's something I definitely need to refer back to, and what we've not quite got at yet. So I'm working on that. My second practitioner is Rosemary Lee. So she works more in the community. Her work is characterised by a special quality of taking care, of listening to others and paying attention. She offers a model of community life. So my upbringing, my parents are foster carers, and they currently have a house which is basically called a community house, and they do a lot for the community. So we have a lot of foster children that live there, and they support them, they nurture them to guide them to the right routes. I did my dissertation on that. That was what my dissertation was on at Laban, and how community life is really important to people's upbringings and having support there to kind of nurture and develop them. So I use that, and that's kind of embedded in my practice now, and I feel like dance should be used as a way to portray that, to bringing people together. So, like I said, I have a family friend, he's not a dancer, but he wants to work with me and I want to work with him to help him use dance to portray his ideas and in the community. So one day I hope that I can work with these vulnerable children and use movement as a way for them to maybe express their feelings. So again, similar to Sam's talking about mental illness, dance is a way that you can express how you're feeling without having separate things. So yeah, that's kind of where her practice kind of comes into mine as well. And working in a secondary school at the moment, it's in such a deprived area and with very vulnerable kids, and lots of them go to dance as an escape route, and so I just love the fact that I can inspire them and express my feelings through movement and support them to do the same. So that's another way the community is bringing together. Now, the show that they will eventually be performing the piece at is at Sunderland Academy as well, and their parents, their family background, is so disengaged from school life and from the community, but when it comes to this show, all of their parents come as such a massive support, and they're so proud of their children on stage. So that's another relation that it brings that community together, which is not something that happens very often. She says, I do believe that dance has something to offer as an art form and a social form, when finding something common to us as a species, if you like, that might just be able to cross quite big divides. So like I said about the divide of school life, community life in that community around Sunderland Academy, but that one show brings them together. And the support, it's like being at a competition, the shouts and the woos and their parents and guardians supporting their children in that. It's, the divide that is normally there is closed after that. So and the whole social form, again, in the theme I'm using, is a very social idea. So football hooligans, the whole theme is socialising and expressing their love for football and that their team is the best team, and it becomes this big social event. So it says, I found myself working with a movement that seems to be known fundamentally, almost unconsciously, swarming, flocking, scattering, opening, closing, flying, falling and planting. Then it struck me that these forms were in some sense natural forms of movement, or patterning, ones we would observe in nature and in our bodies. So this was something I kind of started with in my process. I used a gestural phrase, and it was based on the team that they are, whoever they support, whatever football team it is, of using hand gestures as quite an aggressive intention to the other team. So it was, gestural phrase, and it was all about kind of communicating with the opposite team, but in a very aggressive way. You'll see some pictures later on. But this refers back to the whole behaviour idea and how that we could observe each other, and actually within there, that's a lot of movement that you could use. So it's in our bodies already. We just have to make sure that if that's what we're concentrating on, to draw it out. And like I said, but observing one another to see that. So there's actually a naturalistic approach already. There's already the movement there. We just have to look for it. So yeah, that's how it relates. And her admire as an inspiration. So she looks at poetry, arts and craft, landscapes, and naturalists. So in a way, my past choreographic experiences relates because, again, my dissertation was a site-specific piece, so it wasn't on stage in a normal seating arrangement where audience have and then they watched the show on stage. It was actually in a meeting room, a bit like this, but every wall was glass, and the audience stood outside and around the edge. They were looking in at it through glass, but some of them were also inside, so it was two different perspectives. That relates to Britons Marini as well. I quite like to work with site specific, again, going into churches and performing there, performing outside. And I think the piece I'm creating has potential to go somewhere like that. So because it's about football hooliganism, I could take it to a football game if they wanted that. You know, you could get singers at the start of the football game, or you can get different performers as cheerleaders. Why not have dance? So I think it has potential to go somewhere else and be site specific as well. And I guess that comes into